Hello and welcome to another tier list video. Today we are taking a look at the edible fish from Subnautica. Not all the fish, because that's quite a lot to do in one list. Just looking at the ones that you can cook and eat in the game that provide you some sort of bonus. Subnautica is one of my favorite games. I would say it's probably my favorite single player game of all time. So in celebration of Below Zero getting released, I'm going to be doing this list, and starting us off, we have the bladderfish, a fish that, everybody knows and loves at the beginning of the game. Bladderfish, until you start making your own bleach and purifying your own water, bladderfish is usually a pretty good way just to, fill up your thirst bar, because bladderfish, when you eat them, they do provide a little bit of water. And, sometimes, you're out and about and you forget to bring a couple bottles of water with you and you're getting thirsty. Luckily, bladderfish comes in clutch, so while sure they don't provide like really any food and like cooking it is really kind of a waste, the fact that they do provide water is pretty useful, and for that reason it's going to find itself up in the A tier for me. Up next we have Garry Fish, another one of the first fish that you come across, and Garry Fish, I feel like it's kind of a weird name, and I think it's pretty fitting though. These fish look really weird, they're basically like a big, huge, like almost a triangle shape, and then their eyes are sticking up. They kind of look like a snail crossed-bred with a fish. Overall, just pretty weird, but they provide a decent amount of food. And Garry Fish, for me, you gotta put them in at least the B tier. Up next, we have hoverfish. Now these fish, it's honestly kind of just fun watching them swim around because they kind of do look like they hover, just like the way they move is pretty unique compared to the other fish. But honestly, I love hoverfish. I think they're one of the cutest fish in the game. I mean, just look at him. This guy, how can you not love that? Hoverfish, so cute. I love his little, hover pads that he has for legs. Hoverfish, just love hoverfish. I usually don't even eat them just because I like them so much. I just keep them as pets, put them in my aquariums, just get a huge collection going. So hoverfish, I gotta put you in the S tier. Up next, we have the Boomerang Fish, another one of the early fish that you come across. Overall, I think they're kind of unique. They're a boomerang shape, but overall, I don't really think that they're nothing too special. They look okay, but they're not my favorite. I pretty much just eat them. They're not the best. They don't have a super goofy look like Garry Fish. So Boomerang, honestly, gonna find themselves down in the C tier. Up next, we have Hoopfish. Another one that you would come across pretty early on, and honestly, I think hoopfish are one of the coolest looking edible fish on this list, especially at nighttime. They glow, like you can see in this picture. They're very luminescent, and I think they look really good. I love the way they look. I'll usually put them in my aquariums just because I think, I like to look at them just like hoverfish. So hoopfish, as far as eating, they're not the best, but they're decent. And just the color alone, I love the color, I love the luminosity of the fish, so for that reason, gonna find itself up in the A tier. Up next, we have Peeper, which is pretty much the core of my diet, cooked Peeper, pretty much until late game when you get really good food sources. Cooked Peeper is just great. It gives you a ton of food, and honestly, they're everywhere. There's tons of Peepers, near the spawning area, and pretty much anywhere you go, unless you go really deep, you're gonna be finding a lot of Peepers. And I think they look cool, they got the huge eye, look a little goofy, look pretty cute though. And honestly, cooked Peeper, delicious, love to eat it. Peepers gonna find themselves up in the S tier. Up next, we have Spade Fish. Now these are ones that are found a little bit deeper, not really found in the shallows. I mean, honestly, not a huge fan of Spade Fish. I mean, they look really goofy, they got the huge eye on top of their head. And honestly, it's a little unsettling for me. I can't say I really like it. I get kind of weirded out thinking about eating something with an eye that's that big, staring up at me. So spadefish, and really, they don't provide a whole ton of food even when you cook them. So while sure, you can eat them if you're feeling it, but for me, there's just better options out there. And spadefish, sorry, but it just doesn't look that appealing. Gonna find itself down in the D tier. Up next, we have spinefish. Now this one, I gotta say, I'm really not a fan of eating. It provides, a pretty normal, moderate amount of food when you cook it and eat it. But for me, I just don't like the idea of eating a fish that has that many bones. I mean, it's got see-through skin. I imagine there's barely any meat on there. You're mostly chewing on bones. So hey, if you really like bones in your fish, You know, spine fish might be for you, but it's not for me. Eating that many bones, you know, not gonna cut it. Maybe if I'm truly desperate and it's the only fish I can find, because spine fish you usually find when you're pretty deep. So maybe it's the only thing around and you gotta eat it. But honestly, spine fish will definitely be the last resort for me on this list. And for that reason, gonna find itself down in the F tier actually. Up next, we have the eye, which I actually think these fish look pretty cool. Not one I want to eat, you know, similar to spade fish, they got this huge eye. And cooking a fish and eating a fish that's like mostly eye, I don't remember exactly, but I think the data entry for this says it's like its body, like, or its eye makes up like 90% of its entire body structure. So I don't really think it would be that appetizing. It still provides like a normal amount of food when you cook it, but really not the kind of fish that I would be going for to eat. But I do think that they're a good addition to the aquarium. I think they look cool, definitely pretty unique, and gonna find themselves up in the B tier. Up next, we have the red eye, or sometimes called the lava eye. This one, just like the regular eye, is found really deep, but this one more so in the lava zones. And honestly, I think this one looks really cool. I think the red around its pupil really makes it look cool. I like having kind of a combination of the red eye and the regular eye in an aquarium. I think it looks pretty cool, you know, some good diversity. And red eye, similar to the eye, gonna find itself up in the B tier. Up next, we have the lava boomerang fish, or lavarang as they're sometimes called. And honestly, this one, pretty much just like the boomerang fish, gives you about the same amount of food, but I think it just looks cooler. I think the fish that are found in the lava zones look pretty cool, and the lava boomerang fish is no different. Not one I really go for to eat that often, but definitely one that's going to find itself in my aquarium, and it's going to find itself up in the B tier. Up next, we have a whole fish, which, you know, basically a fish, as its name says, it has a big hole in the back of its tail. Overall, I think whole fish they're pretty average. You know, they give you a decent amount of food, similar to many other fish, but they're not the best. Overall, just pretty middle of the road. You know, maybe I'll have one or two of these in my aquarium, but, you know, they're really nothing to write home about and gonna find themselves in the C tier. Up next, we have the Reginald fish. Now these things, I'm pretty sure they gotta be related to the Garry Fish. Though Reginald fish are found much deeper than Garry Fish. And overall, cooked Reginald gives you a lot of food, so, you know, if you're looking for a good food source and you find a lot of Reginalds, pick those up. They will fill you up for quite a while. Overall, they're pretty goofy looking. Honestly, I would say they're one of the uglier fish on this list. Definitely not one that I put in my aquarium. But overall, definitely a good one to eat. And so Reginald is going to find himself up in the B tier. Last but certainly not least is the Oculus Witch. It's one of the fish you don't find until much later and you get much deeper. But honestly, when you do, I usually have an entire aquarium tank just for this, just for breeding these fish. Because one, they give you a ton of food. I believe it's the most food in the game from any of the cooked fish. And they just look so cool. I love the color of the eye. I love the way his tail looks. It's kind of got like those almost like tendrils coming out the back of it. I just think they look super cool. These definitely related to the Peeper. I believe, you know, they're mutated from the virus or something like that. But honestly, I think the Oculus looks super cool and tastes delicious. Gotta put them up in the S tier. Well, that's my list. Let me know your guys' thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed.